the last of it, I think. There's supposed to be no more rain now for a couple of weeks, so we should be in for a dry time, at least in LA, which is nice.
Good. Well, that sort of leads into the title today, right? Barry and I today are going to talk about how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because as wussy California people, we manage the rain. I think if it ever snowed, we'd all just be paralyzed. We wouldn't have any idea what to do.
Oh, snowdrifts. I mean, growing up in England, I had experienced that, but here, I don't know what we do. But it's bad enough the fact that rain doesn't drain properly because the LA isn't built for that sort of experience.
No.
But if it snowed, oh boy.
Yeah, we don't know how to drive in the rain in the first place. And I think the people that ski know how to drive in the mountains in the snow, but they get prepared. You know, they have chains and special snow tires, and just driving around the city, we'd all have no idea what to do.
Yes.
Yes. So today we are going to talk about how to be comfortable about being uncomfortable, whether it's in the rain or the snow or in the world of dating and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to welcome you to the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio and TV podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
Yeah. So, you know, doing new things generally make us human beings often various degrees of uncomfortable. So if you're going to go do it, just know you're going to be uncomfortable. So how can we be comfortable while we're doing things that make us feel uncomfortable? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, indeed. It's something I've generally come across myself, and I've got so many anecdotes and things to talk about as well. But also, it's an interesting thing is that, you know, there's a quote, or I should say a visual I used to say about how some of the seminars I've been in say, you know, this is your comfort zone, and this little box over here, this little bubble over here. And then you want to get somewhere, it's got to go outside your comfort zone to get there, which means you're going to be uncomfortable. But I used to reframe it in myself saying, okay, that's a comfort zone. Everything around it is the magic zone. So I like playing with that idea because the thing is, if you are in the the non-comfortable, the non-comfortable space, you may not know what's going to happen, which is where magic can happen. So I like thinking of it as a frame of like, what's possible versus, oh crap, what's not going to work, you know?
What might be fun about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also something to think about is how can we make it less uncomfortable? A little less uncomfortable might be a good goal, even if you know it might be uncomfortable. Because if you've listened to me at all, you know that generally I'm not as happy with change. I like easing into things. I like taking a while. I like thinking about it. I like talking about it. I like working up to stuff. It's just so me. I've met a few people who have way my share of they like change. My nephew likes change in everything all the time, as often as possible. So I know where my share went, and he knows where his share of I don't want to change came to me. So how do I make it less uncomfortable for me? The way that I make it less uncomfortable is that I quietly have my few people that I do tell about how I'm doing my process and how I'm fussing about it, how I'm thinking about it, how I'm working through it. And that really does help. And my goal is to get through the process with as little uncomfortableness as possible and to do it as quickly as it feels comfortable for me. And it really is interesting how there are times when it is less amount of time. And I generally don't feel very uncomfortable when I finally go do it because I've thought about everything and asked a lot of questions. And it really does help me with my process. So I've had people think about when you feel uncomfortable, what sorts of things have helped you feel comfortable after the fact or during the time, or what sorts of things you thought after the fact, what could I have done ahead of time? At least learn when you jumped into something and said it didn't work, what would you have rather have done ahead of time before?
Yeah. One of the things as well, speaking to what you said about sort of moving through expediently, for want of a better word, I know there are people who think, I mean, I reference, I've not done Tony Robbins' programs. I know of his work quite deeply, but a lot of friends have been through it. It's just not my draw. But one of his favorite things, one of his famous things he took from somebody else was the fire walk. That's what he's famous for, but somebody else originated it. He took it on. And in the fire walk, the premise is basically is that you tune yourself into a frequency of awareness or a presence so that the fire doesn't affect you. Because it's what he's showing us is mind over matter sort of things. What it comes down, a lot of what it comes down to his other parts too. I'm not going to get into that because it's his teaching, not mine. But the sense also is that some people, when they do the fire walk, they don't walk slowly. They walk. They want to get through it. They want to get over with it. And there's a benefit in that, of course, because the less time you spend in the pain, the better, sort of thing. But the other thing also is, and this is why I talk about the magic zone versus the uncomfortable or painful zone, is that sometimes the journey through the discomfort is actually where the benefit is, rather than getting it over and done with. And so the idea about being comfortable when you're being uncomfortable, and we're going to relate to dating at some point in this conversation, I know, people to my personal experience. But the idea being is that doing things differently, which is a better way of putting it in some ways, which can be outside your, quote, comfort zone, your familiarity, your ease of doing things, may find that you expand your ability to enjoy more things. Because one of the things, for example, let's throw this one on the table, is I remember vividly when I came up to the States how I hated guacamole because I didn't grow up with it. And so avocado and guacamole were too greasy. It wasn't my thing. It's like, no, not interested. Salsa was close second, but guacamole was first. And of course, coming to LA where Mexican food is prolific, I was missing a lot of food. But I can't remember, it was some point in time, but I remember vividly this change from one to the other. Not when it changed, but when I changed from one to the other, where I got to the point where I actually love guacamole so much. I mean, I had on toast this morning, and have salsa too. In fact, I've got a joy in hot spices, which grew over time. So there was a period of time where I was absolutely avoidant of spicy because I didn't like hot spicy. It scared me. It wasn't comfortable. Now I'm on the other side of it. And I don't actually remember much of the journey through. I know it sort of was degrees. It wasn't like suddenly jumping the deep end. I think for those of us who go through the journey of moving to a new place of being in relationship or anywhere else, oftentimes when we get to the end, we don't remember how we got there. It's not conscious. We just went through the discomfort pace by pace, step by step until we get to the other side. And now we're comfortable again. And we're like, that was easy.
Yeah. I think that really is the thing that we don't acknowledge, appreciate, notice the process. So then when we get back to the beginning again of, well, why would I want to do that? That's outside my comfort zone, as if we've never done it before. And think of all the things that we've done. So I remember hearing a talk by Brene Brown, and she talked about how she went to, the name went out of my head. What's the production company, the movie company that Steven Spielberg runs?
DreamWorks. Is it DreamWorks? No. Amblin Entertainment is sorry. DreamWorks was Geffen and Amblin Entertainment. Yes. So
she went there to talk, and they said, do you want to see our process? And they said, sure. So they said, so here we have these 3 whiteboards. And the first whiteboard is anybody can throw up any idea about what our next movie could be. And it could be so outrageous. We don't care. We write everything down on the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. And then we move to the second whiteboard and we pick out something that we think might be kind of sort of realistic. And we come up with everything we think kind of sort of could make it happen. And we start working on it and we get in the middle of it and we start putting things together. And we're like, whose idea was this? This is so crazy. And now all the hard things are showing up. And like in Jurassic Park, they had to invent all these things and they couldn't figure out how to do this. And they had to come up with special noises and all this animatronics. And it's just so hard. And they're having to spend all this extra money. And it's just so hard. And then they get to the third whiteboard and it's all really happening. And they've made the movie and it's making all this money and people are so excited about it. And they've got all these new inventions. And then they go, oh, well, that was really worth it. Well, this was a really fun process of coming up with things. And in the middle, it's really hard and awful. And we shouldn't have ever started this. And now the end's like, oh, yeah, it was really worth it. And then they start over again and go, oh, yeah, we should draw these things on the board. And then they get to the middle and they go, why are we doing this again? It's all horrible and awful. And then how often we do that as people. So she ended up doing this talk about this is how we do this as people. We always forget the middle part is hard and uncomfortable. And then we always get to the end going, oh, yeah, that was worth it. And that was good. And I'm glad I did that. But we forget that the middle is really uncomfortable and really hard and icky and awful.
I love that story. And it is so true because it's almost like we need to, in some ways, or ideally we benefit from looking back from when we got there and go, it was worth the pain and suffering to go through the chasm of challenge to get to the other side, sort of thing. And so that's a good reference point and reminder. Because the thing is, when we say like how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, it is in the transitory moment from when you've been comfortable before to when we're going to be newly comfortable in a new place afterwards. And so it's that piece in between, that liminal space, so to speak, where things are in transition, where we feel most uncomfortable because things aren't settled. They're not static. They're in change and in flux, and not the way we want to be. And talking about you said your nephew.
Yes.
Your nephew, yeah.
My very adventurous nephew that would change cell phones every 6 months.
I have part of that trait myself because I've lived in 4 countries, changed careers 6 times, 7 times. So my comfort with change is fairly easy. Excuse me. Try them again. My comfort with change, with some things, is relatively easy because I know there's a joy in that shift, and so to me that change is almost like, oh, it's refreshing because it's different, it's new, something to learn and become better at, and that's part of my joy, is always learning new things. So it plays to that strength in me. But some people, I want to say conservative necessarily, but more reserved or more static in their choices. They're not necessarily as comfort stick putting their toe in the water and stepping out of their comfort zone into some newness. And so it is a choice point of, and like you're saying, like you and he are very different. We're not all the same. So to say you should easily step out of your comfort zone and try new things, that's not accommodating the fact that we're all different. And so recognizing that we do have a different level of ease and grace with moving into a new place in relationship, especially as we are in a relationship with a partner, noting that maybe your comfort zone and their comfort zone adjustments aren't necessarily the same, can make for some interesting conversations. So before you decide to change things, if you're the one that likes to change things all the time and your partner doesn't, you may not realize how much you're upsetting that person because you're changing things up because you think it's great and they don't. So in some ways also it's about having a conversation, having communication, and understanding each other's natural residence to move them in a way that's graceful and easy. So even on first dates or second dates, it's good to find out where that person is, because I know, for example, been on dates where we went to a place that was closed, we had to go somewhere else. And I was fine with that. It's like, oh, that's fine. I was hoping for this one, but I'm okay with the next one. And my date wasn't. She was already like banked on this place. And so the whole date was off because that one thing didn't work. And so it's like, for me, I know I need to be with somebody who not so much is hungry for the change, but doesn't mind it. At least that much comfort with it is going to be a good thing,
Yeah. Oh boy, that is just having a little change like that. So what I do is I say, okay, I'm okay with moving to another. Just let me let go of this. I do have to have a moment. Are you okay with me? I need to have, and if you are not okay with that, then that really is a big thing. I just need to have a moment to say, not doing this. And you let go of that, and then I can move on. But I do need to let go. I can't just boop. So you could just boop. I can't boop. I need to say, okay, I'm not having that. My taste buds were really ready for that. Now I'm fine with doing something else. So that's the thing, that the first part is, as we stress so many times, know yourself. Who are you? What really, and then say it nicely to the other person. Oh, by the way, this is who I am. Are you okay with that? And the other person gets to go, oh, not experience somebody like that. Am I okay with that? Yeah, you really expressed that really well. I'm okay with that, or not. I mean, that's what's really important. And even just in such a little thing as the restaurant now has to change, or there's construction, you have to go a different way, or some little, I mean, really, people have gotten kind of upset about what some people might think is a little thing, but turns out it's a big thing to them. And so what is a big thing to somebody else? And do you care? Do you have energy about something that's big to them? Or do they have energy about something that's big to you and not big to them? It's really such a get to know people. And how does the person who has had the discomfort, they're now uncomfortable for whatever happened or didn't happen, how do they I know how to re-regulate myself. I just know I need a moment. Are you okay if I just take a moment? I can re-regulate myself, but I'm going to be my best person with you if you just give me a moment to re-regulate myself with this. Because somebody else other than you would go, well, why? And try to talk me out of it. Well, that's not my person and I'm not their person. So knowing who you are and expressing it in a nice way to the other person is such a good way to start out getting to know another person and deciding, Are they okay with my uncomfortable? Can I get comfortable with them? Can they get comfortable with me? Because boy, if you can't do it in that little tiny way, it's not going to work out in the big ways.
Right. And what you said about how you are with that, and just fact you can consciously and clearly know I need to just take a moment to shift, is so far advanced for most people, to be blunt, because most people aren't aware of why they feel upset. People in that the way you are, who don't have that wisdom, will just be bent out of shape and not even know why they're upset. They think, oh, it's fine, we're changing because they think it's changed. I must be, it's like because they want it to change, but I don't. Something wrong with me, which is not what we're talking about here. And so what you said about definitely is like, I need to be able to have the space to go, okay, I'm saying goodbye to that, saying hello to this. Can you be patient enough for me to do that? Is a massive change that most people don't understand. So the comfort of being clear about that, in fact, the discomfort of being that way, is so massive that it's yeah, it's like perfectly done. So thank you for saying that one, because it's an important beat you remember, is that we can accommodate each other in the discomfort.
Certainly one of our jobs as podcasters to give people suggestions of how to handle things when stuff comes up, because it's going to come up. And certainly what we do as coaches, so that when something comes up for you and you go, oh, I'm having a reaction to something, let me figure out what it is and what do I do about it. And if you haven't ever, if you've gotten uncomfortable and you didn't know what to say, now you have something to say, and you could practice it with somebody that you're comfortable with, a friend. Oh, I need to practice this with you because I might need to do this with a stranger someday. And I want to practice it with somebody I feel comfortable with, and go, oops, boy, I'm having a moment. I need a moment. I need to calm myself down about this. And to own that it's not a little thing to you. It's a big thing right now. And you're going to get rid of the big thing. And then it doesn't turn into a huge thing. Right? It's so important. Thank you for the compliment. That's so sweet, because we really have both worked really hard to get to this place where we are, because neither one of us started out this place in our early years. Before we've had our way over almost 40 years. We could have 80 years combined, right, of how much we've studied this if we put our years together. Isn't that, I think we should advertise. This podcast has 80 years combined worth of studying.
We sound ancient now. But the thing also I want to say, and this is something else I'm aware of, I'm going to do an Instagram talk about this at some point, about positive and negative feedback, because being uncomfortable oftentimes is also how you receive information. Like you were saying, you need to let your partner, your date know that you need to have a moment to do that. They might take that completely as like the wrong things. They feel like they're criticized or they're upset. And one of the things I'm aware of, and it's about feedback being positive or negative, because it's nicer to be praised than to be criticized. Clearly, no argument about that. However, the opportunity to learn and grow usually comes from the criticism, not from the praising. There's an old story about how when a plane is on autopilot, it's actually off course over 90% of the time, because it's course correcting all the time. So what autopilot does, it course corrects to get to the destination. And being on course doesn't do a thing. Being off course gets course correction, which is basically feedback. And so if you're not willing to hear negative feedback, then your ability to be uncomfortable is not available either. Because the thing about learning to be in the discomfort, so to speak, to be hearing feedback isn't positive. I was talking about this on another episode about hearing from somebody and how it needs to change something. I was actually kind of surprised about myself being that comfortable with going, oh, I need to change. Okay, I can do that. I can be uncomfortable and shift it without stressing out too much. And so the understanding that even when you hear like feedback from somebody, negative feedback, where somebody criticizes you or says something's wrong, that you can take it in stride and be able to incorporate it rather than judge. Because the thing is, if they're just being belligerent and negative at you, that's their stuff, not yours. So it's like easy to shed that one. Yeah, right. No, it's less, you don't have to take it personally. But the thing is, if there's value in what they're sharing with you, even if it's not delivered the nicest, positive, easiest way, you can use it to improve. And so sometimes your ability to be comfortable, even with the feedback, gives you a gift that you can then learn from and grow from, which is so wonderful.
Oh boy, the whole next part is going to be all about how much we learn when we're uncomfortable.
Yep.
Okay. And so we're going to be taking a commercial break. And if any of this is ringing true to you and you would like to hear more from each of us individually, we'd love to have you reach out to us and have a conversation with us. And the way to do that with me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of my page and click on the questionnaire, What's Holding You Back from Love? Fill out a couple of questions. It'll send you to my online calendar. You can schedule a complimentary conversation with me at your convenience, or you can send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Similarly to Christine, you can reach me through my site or through my email. So my site is my name, which is barryselby.com. And at the top of the screen, there is a button that clicks on Let's Chat. Similar to Christine, I have my calendar available and also a, what's what I'm looking for? A questionnaire, that's the word. You can fill out you answer some questions. So I get to know a little bit about what you're about before we start. And then you can have this conversation, get on my calendar, we can have a conversation and chat. You can also drop me an email, sending one at barryselby.com. And we can let me know what you're looking for and how you can help you. So that's how you can reach me.
So we're going to take a brief break to talk about this wonderful station, the newstreamingnetwork.com, that distributes our wonderful episodes and our podcasts. And we'll be right back to talk more about how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
See you in a moment.
Hi, thank you to the newstreamingnetwork.com. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, because generally we don't learn much when we're in our comfort zone. We're staying in the same place. It's nice. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm not saying go out of your comfort zone all the time, every day. And it's really important to move outside your comfort zone and do things that feel unusual and different and maybe a little uncomfortable, because certainly personally, and I see my clients professionally, learning new, very beneficial things, such beneficial growing and learning and having wonderful growth experiences for their own person and within their relationships when they get brave, because it's really an act of bravery to do something that feels really uncomfortable. And what I have found is one of the hardest things is to say your truth. One of the things we talked about in the first half is, who am I and what's really important to me? What do I need? What do I want? What is something I need from you? What is something that you do that I don't like, that I need you to do differently? It's so scary, so serious, so scary. And really, Barry was saying, sometimes you work really hard to say it in the nicest way possible, and people can still take offense. And then there's times when you just can't. You're just going to blurt it out. You're going to say it in the most awful, terrible, worst way. I've certainly been guilty of that personally. And you just have to get it out. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the other person might have some grace about them or not. They can receive it, and they care enough about slugging it, not physically, but emotionally slugging it out with you, that you can get to the bottom of it and come to some sort of a resolution where you hear each other and you care enough about each other to say, oh, well, we're here. I could do this. I could do this. And it's not often this, but it's close enough. And it's close enough that it's fine. It's fine enough. It's okay enough. Everybody's okay enough. Okay enough is great. Okay enough is I feel cared about. I feel seen. I feel acknowledged. I'm trying really hard. I feel you're trying. I'm receiving enough. It's okay. I'm really okay. Because there's all these other, you're not going to stay if there's all these other great things, but there's this thing. I really need this thing to not happen or to happen. Could you do it? Could you get closer to it? And the people who have done it I had one this week. I was in awe of the bravery of both of them. And they're working it out. They're really working it out. But it took so much bravery on both of their parts.
Well, it's the most challenging thing I think to hear is those 4 words. We need to talk. But the thing is, it is that sense that if you've built the relationship on a good foundation where you can communicate improvement opportunities, things that aren't working, resolutions, things you work out, and being uncomfortable asking for that. Because yes, sometimes in a relationship, you may feel it's going on so perfectly that you daren't ask anything that makes them uncomfortable, and you don't be uncomfortable asking. It's like, that's all the mind chatter we have. But if you're really willing to be, as you said, totally honest and be real and tell your truth, then to ask for what you want is almost fundamental. And if you set your relationship up, I won't say the right way, but ideally the healthy way, that you both have your willingness to speak your truth so the other person can hear it and also you can speak it, then it removes the discomfort. And you can actually have a comfortable conversation, even about uncomfortable things, so your relationship can thrive and you can have a great relationship. But the thing is, you both got to be willing. It's not one side or the other. It's going to be both.
And yes, there are times when it means it will end. There are times when you say, I really need this and I really can't do this. And at least now you know. At least you got brave enough to say, I really need this. And they said, I really can't do this. Or they said they need this and you can't do that. At least now you know. And I have seen where, okay, I will do this. I really can do this without sacrificing myself, because that's the thing. You can't sacrifice yourself, but I really can do this, because it's an act of bravery. It's an act of such a higher human being to say, what is it going to take for me to make this change? Why am I holding on to this thing that I'm not doing, or this thing that I am doing? What is the reason? And is it something that's core to me? Then I can't do anything about it. Is it some old thing that doesn't fit me now? Maybe I do need to let it go. And I would need to do some work so that it doesn't feel like I'm letting part of me go. It's some very deep work. This in relationship part. I mean, going out and doing uncomfortable things, we talked about, like, I love the one that we did about going out alone. And there's some little ways to do tiny things about being uncomfortable. But when you have one of these really honest conversations in a relationship, which if people would just start out doing it in the beginning, then you don't have to have this such a huge thing in the middle. But that's often what I end up with, people just show up when, okay, I've had it. And I'm like, okay, but it's now been 2.5 years. Then both people have to be very brave, and very honest, And then often what I've seen is they go to their corners. That's often what has to happen. Go away, now come back and say, this is my bottom line. It's been really fascinating to be witness to it.
Reflecting back on past relationships myself, I definitely have had experiences where on my own onus, I didn't see the warning signs. So when we had the conversation, it was already basically a decision already done. It was already over. And so I look back and realize that some of my relationships, I missed out because there were early warning signs. And yes, a couple of times where there were early conversations which I didn't choose to grow from. I went back to old habits, which is why the relationship ended. So, mea culpa. But I also recognize that there were opportunities I had in the relationship where I could have been the one to say. I was also very attached to being comfortable. The status quo, not change anything, don't make waves, keep hearing smooth sailing, everything else. When these didn't work, I basically hid my head in the sand. I buried it. I didn't want to deal with it. So I know how tempting it can be to stay comfortable. And I know if I'd risked being uncomfortable in those relationships, they would have gone on a lot longer, probably. Although, frankly, looking back, I'm glad they ended because of the lessons I learned from them anyway. But the reality is those relationships could have sustained themselves quite a bit longer if I'd chosen to be willing to be uncomfortable by bringing up a certain topic where I didn't realize, where I didn't necessarily have the answer to, but I knew it wasn't working. And the thing is, the challenge is for most people, I believe, is that to speak about what's uncomfortable for them, about something that's not working, even if they don't know the answer, especially if they don't know the answer, can be very uncomfortable because the feeling is I'm putting out this unknown thing into the space and I'm hoping my partner can help because I don't have the answer to this, you know?
And so it's so wonderful, vulnerable, because I've certainly had that experience in my past relationships that we don't want to hurt the other person. We really don't often know the right words to say to not hurt them. And sometimes there's just no way you can't not hurt the other person. There's just, I mean, you can work on hurting them the least, but there's not a way to not hurt the other person. And you have no control over how they're going to react. I mean, we could set it up the best way possible with these are all the great things because they're, if you really wanted to work out, there must be great things. And then you tell them the hard thing and you still have no control how they're going to react. So it can feel very scary. And for us women, because if you masculine people get mad, even not violently mad, but it can feel very scary to us because you're powerful, you have big voices. It's hard for us. It's very hard for us. And then you so want to please us and not upset us. And the ramifications are so awful, the emotional distance, the physical distance. I know all the reasons I lived it, and I know all the reasons my clients don't do it.
Right.
And the consequences are so dire. I'm going to use that word because as you see people break up over it, or I see these couples that they talk about how they are roommates and they pass in the night and they're barely cordial and hasn't been sex for 10 years. And I it's sad because it's so unnecessary. Why are you even staying together if you're so unhappy? And could you be happier? I don't know, but you haven't given it a chance, really. And could you be happier with somebody else? Maybe, if you were not with this person that you're unhappy with. So there's all these other options that's what I keep using, especially with the ones this week. So brave to have this conversation. Both of them equally brave. It was remarkable. I said, you are rare and brave to have done this conversation and to say, we're both willing to work on it. As I said, it doesn't always happen. It just doesn't.
Right. No, I definitely didn't do things the most conscious and elevated way, to be sure. And just to fill in the blank on that one too, what you said earlier about moving on to the next relationship, I definitely hoped that the next relationship would change things, not realizing that I was carrying the same patterns forward into those relationships. And I've talked about this many times before with my clients and on my videos and interviews as well, that I did repeat the same basic pattern experience with a different partner 3 times in a row. And it was, I mean, even the second time I hoped I would have gone, oh, hang on a second, this is familiar. It took me to the third time before I really got it. And I got it in spades, so to speak. I got like full in my face and it made me extremely uncomfortable. But the thing is, if I taken it, it's almost like, you know, taking off the Band-Aid, you can take it off slowly or take it off fast. When you take it off fast, it can hurt like hell when you take the Band-Aid off. But the truth is, take it off slowly, it's a cumulative pain. It's probably a lot worse than just taking it right off. And if I faced it up at the front of the first relationship, I would have saved the, excuse me.
Bless you.
I've been getting over a head cold, so that's the last dregs of it coming through. But the lesson learned would have been so much more graceful if I'd done the first one, because the next 2 relationships wouldn't have had to gone through the same experiences, you know? So there's a benefit in hindsight.
And here's the benefit to having gone through it 3 times, right? Look at how the great wisdom you have, the vulnerable stories you have to share.
I'm good at this work.
and people appreciate when we share our personal stories.
Yeah,
I hear that all the time. And it's, you know, we can teach people from our experience. And that's the thing, that venturing into your uncomfortableness or your magic zone, as you so eloquently put it, you will always learn helpful, valuable information.
Yeah.
There's nothing wasted about going out of your comfort zone. Don't do anything dangerous. I would certainly need to say that. But doing something that feels uncomfortable having a conversation, having a new experience, trying something new, you always come away going, well, I learned that about me, that I never want to do that again, or I do it differently, or wow, I would do that again. So that's the only way. I mean, I tell people all the time, I was my first client. This is how I learned how to do a lot of, I mean, I've taken lots of classes and seminars, and oh my gosh, I have so much education as you do. But as you did, you went, huh? It's me? Oh my God. I think I need to look at me first. It's not all those other people out there that I'm going next. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have so much to do with what keeps happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is the challenge, because it does sometimes feel like you have to be uncomfortable to look at ourselves in the mirror, to be honest with ourselves, and see how our participation in the relationship is adding to the challenge or making it not as easy. So one of the biggest gifts we give ourselves is to learn how to look at ourselves in the mirror, so to speak, in the relationship, and actually to be comfortable doing that. And it takes time, understandably. It's not an easy light switch to go from comfortable to uncomfortable, so uncomfortable to comfortable to comfortable, like my experience with guacamole. To tie that one together. But the recognition is that when we start, and certainly for myself, having done this work for so many years, when I find myself facing a challenge or an opportunity to change or to grow, there's a part of me that almost relishes it now.
Yeah.
And it has become something that I don't feel uncomfortable about, even though it's not something I'm comfortable with necessarily, but I feel an ease with it, knowing that I'm going to get through it. It's like you learn through experiences the same one over and over again. When it comes up again, you may go, well, it's not really comfortable, but I know I'm going to get through it, so it's okay. And that's kind of the experience I've had now in relationships, in my life, and in journeys. Like I said, recently when I had that conversation a couple episodes ago about how I got really confronted, part of me was like, okay, I can learn from this, rather than going, oh no, they're going to attack me. It's like, no, anything that, if they attack me, that's their stuff, not mine, first of all, and I can stand strong in that. But secondly, there's a message in there I want to use. There's some value in it. So the criticism becomes beneficial, and I can grow from that, which I did. So in relationships, I mean, they're rich opportunities for growth. Obviously, we talk about this many times. So can you be willing to be uncomfortable, even in the intimacy and the vulnerability of a relationship, where it may not feel easy, but you know it's going to benefit you in the long run and in the relationship as well?
Well, I can say out loud now that emotional growth, relationship growth, bring it on. I don't want to get a new cell phone until I absolutely have to, still to this day. I'll still say that. I don't want a new cell phone. So the uncomfortable thing might be to talk to Barry or I, and we'd be happy to hold your hand through the whole thing and make it as less uncomfortable as possible. That's really part of our gift, I think. I think people do say that to us, right?
Yes, indeed.
So to talk to me, please go to my website. It's www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of my page and click on the questionnaire, What's Holding You Back from Love? And it'll give you a chance to really assess where you are. Are you ready to date? Or would you like to get ready to date? Or would you just like to get ready to get ready? Because I'm finding more people are in that phase. Once you've finished answering that questionnaire, you'll have access to my online calendar, and you can schedule a complimentary conversation with me at your convenience. While you're on my homepage, please go to the top and click on my ebook. It's free. You can download it, and you'll have a whole bunch of chapters of really interesting dating tips that I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. You can skip around in the book. It's pretty fun. You're also welcome to join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat in your email box of this episode every week live of what you can watch Barry and I chat. You can also find out what's going on this next quarter actually, the second quarter is now going to be coming up. Also, you can go to the bottom and click on all my social media of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and YouTube. And if you click on YouTube, you can then see our whole library of podcasts that Barry and I have done together, and a bunch that I've done before. And you can also email me at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And please tell people how to get a hold of you, Barry.
You covered all social media platforms besides YouTube?
Yeah, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Pinterest and
Make sure you included them, yes. Okay, so for me, similarly, website and social media, so I'll get to that. So on my website, as I mentioned at the break, you can get on my calendar by clicking on the button at the top, which is Let's Chat, and go through the motions there. That gives you fill out a form, get my calendar, schedule, done. At the bottom of the page, you can get on my email list by just clicking in the opt-in that's right there. You put your name and email in, you get my emails every week, which is the replay of the show and everything I'm working on as well. So you can definitely find out what I'm up to in my work, in my life, in my world. In the middle of the screen is the first of my 2 quizzes, my assessments I created. The first one you click on in the homepage is the relationship readiness assessment. And it'll take you to basically a chance to review where you are in your life and navigation about love and relationships. And you'll get an email from me explaining, basically giving you feedback on where you scored so you know where you are on that journey. If you want to get to know your real internal experience of relationship in terms of how you are in relationship to yourself, my second quiz, which is called the self relationship assessment, you can't actually click on that, but you can go to barryselby.com/self quiz. And that will take you to that quiz, which is a whole different animal because it's 7 different sections, really deep dive, lots of questions you can answer. And then you get a PDF in return, much more detail, giving you some tips, guides, and next steps you can take. And both of them offer you an invitation to work with me as well. So I want to make sure I give you the opportunity. Also, my website is my book, which is 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. It's a best-selling book. It's been out for 13, 14 years now, 13 years. And you can get it on my website. You can also listen to a 12, 30-minute conversation between 2 very smart voices explaining my book, describing my book, and critiquing my book. So listen to that first, and then you go down the bottom and click on one of the buttons to choose which version of my book you want to get. On social media, you can find me on YouTube, of course, under my name, Barry Selby, where all these shows are broadcast, plus over 1,000 other videos I've put up there. So lots of content you can browse about me and my work. Going back quite a few years, so I look a bit different in the first few videos, just to be entertaining. But you can also find me under my name, Barry Selby, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, and on Blue Sky. And if you want to find me on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. And if you want to send me an email, drop me one at barryselby.com. Phew.
Yes, my podcasts are my parade of hats and hairdos.
Yes.
You can watch us live here every week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And then you can watch our episodes, see our cute faces on Roku and YouTube on replay. You can take us with you too, right, Barry?
Yes, indeed. You can listen to us. If you don't need to see our faces, that's okay.
We won't take offense.
We won't take offense, no. But you can listen to our voices on a show because we have it as a podcast. So if you listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. You listen to all 270 episodes we've done over the years, and you can navigate through which episodes speak to you. So if you're out on the road, if you're out driving or biking or shopping where you can't look at the screen and you should listen to us, the podcast is the best way to find out more about what we do.
And we'll be back next week with another interesting discussion about dating and relationships, and we'll look forward to talking to you as well.
We'll see you then. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.